Hello everyone, welcome to episode 25 of FPL BlackBox. To everyone on YouTube who stayed with us for the technical issues, which are very rare for this channel, thank you. For everyone listening on Spotify and everything else, you have no idea what Mark's been through in the last 47 minutes. How are you, Mark?
Hell and back, absolute hell and back. We're here. The show must go on. We've had a lot of. We basically tried a new setup. Az has got a new camera, which looks lovely, right? That works fine. Although, as you had a few problems with that, we won't go into them. And we had a new sound setup with samples, the whole lot ready to go. It's going to be so good. And we tested it in the week. We tested it before we came on air, and then we went live, and it all went strange, and Az didn't sound good, and we abandoned the show. We made the right call though, because if the sound wasn't great for you, there's no point in carrying on. So we're back now. Everything's perfect, hopefully. Well, not perfect. That's probably going a bit too far. But we're
good
back.
As it can be.
Yeah, good as it can be. And we've got a good show for you, hopefully.
It was fun seeing your kind of stress levels through, because at one point you looked really, really bad, but you kind of come out the other side now. You're looking a bit more calm and collected. So
I've got the gin and tonic and got my notes ready to go, and everything's. I just at one point I was going to abandon it. So that's it. We're not doing the show. It's off this week. But I couldn't do that.
I know. Toys out the pram to go with your pink bike in the background. But
absolutely, yeah, I did. I love that bike. It's so good to me. Right. We've got a show to do. What are we going to talk about? As we're going to talk about Salah, aren't we? And Salah's just scored to throw a spanner in the works.
He has, and Mane's got one as well. And I think I saw a Liverpool fan say on Twitter, "Can we play here every week?" Because they can't score a goal at Anfield, but they seem to do better away from home. So I guess the question is, what do we do with him? Away game at Wolves coming up, and then a blank. Is it time to sell him? I was all set to. As soon as he scores in Champions League, though, it kind of casts a bit of doubt on it. So we'll see.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, it's a tricky one. But we're going to talk in depth about Salah because everyone's talking about Salah this week. Everyone's kind of.
Last week it was Fernandes.
It was, and look how Fernandes stung us. So that perhaps should be a warning to us. I mean, it's not going to affect me because I got rid of him some weeks ago, but I've definitely got an opinion on him, and we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about also how Game Week 29 influences this week, because for us, I don't have the free hit. You don't have the free hit. A lot of managers don't. And so with that in mind, we've got to basically make our transfers this week with Game Week 29 at the back of our minds as well. But those with the free hit, well, we're going to look at a free hit team tonight. We're going to look at the players that you would get in, and also the players, obviously, that you would go after as well if you haven't got the free hit, because it's the same set. And it's quite a small pool of talent, I've got to say. But we'll see. And we'll question whether or not. I want to ask you a question about how many players you'd need in 29 where you wouldn't play the free hit, even if you had it. Be interested to get your opinion on that. And then there's the captaincy. This captaincy, Game Week 28, is probably the widest open for some time. There are about 5 or 6 candidates, and with De Bruyne scoring 2 for City tonight, and with Salah on the score sheet in Europe for those who are keeping him, there's so many options. So we're going to look at that in quite a lot of depth as well tonight, and look at some data behind that.
I like a game week like that, because it's when there isn't an obvious captain pick. It's a chance to potentially make up some ground if you do nail it.
It's got to be. But having said that, I saw your team. You sent it to me before the show, and you've just gone for the vanilla captain, and I've gone for
the moment.
And I've gone for exactly the same player. So we'll see. So we'll look at our teams now. Let's talk about the game week first of all. It was a red arrow for you, which I mean, you can't get too downhearted about it, because it's only your second in the last 12 game weeks, and it'll only be a small one as well. 64 points plus, I think, 1 bonus for Gundogan to come in, so 65. Talk through it. What do you reckon?
Well, the thing with FPL is you need your players to score some points to do well.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, and the trouble is, none of my players really scored points this week, except for Kane, Gundogan, Fernandes and Martinez. So pretty much the 4 most owned players in the game scored me points. Okay, Kane's a little bit lower down, but like I needed my, Dean, Antonio, Rafinha, Bamford, well, maybe not Bamford so much, but these other guys to chip in with anything, and they didn't. So it's always hard to get a green. When Gundogan scored, I was actually on a green. I went up to 330k, I think, and then when De Bruyne got in the second goal, my rank plummeted. So it just shows that although De Bruyne is seen as this kind of big differential player, actually his effective ownership must be quite high, because his goal was taking 30, 40k off my rank every time he scored. So yeah, that hurt a bit. Just this is the story of my season though. It's just another kind of nothingy week. I've gone down a little bit of rank, but hopefully next week will be better. The annoying thing was I put my team up and I said I was playing Dean, and I had so many comments saying Dean over Target. Like, what are you thinking? And I did it because I just didn't really want to double up on Villa defence. I didn't feel too comfortable with it against Wolves in that kind of derby game. You never really know kind of what's going to happen in that. And I fancied Everton against Chelsea, and they were really poor, and Chelsea were really good, and it was the wrong decision. So it was another 6 points lost, but I went for it anyway.
I was surprised you did that. I know what you mean about doubling up on Villa in that, maybe you don't trust having two players on that side, but their defence has been strong. And I don't know. I mean, Dino at Chelsea, it's just, it was kind of a predictable result, wasn't it? That. And I had Dino on the bench as well, and I was kind of in two minds whether to play Calvert-Lewin first, but yeah, the match turned out exactly as we expected at Stamford Bridge, that one. So yeah, not a bad game. You have had a lot of game weeks like this where you've kind of just simmered, haven't you? Just simmered, and then you had a really big gain recently, which gave you that big green arrow that pushed you up into the 300,000.
It's okay. I mean, like it feels nicer simmering around 300k than it did at $1 million.
Yeah, of course.
and that's kind of what I said a couple of months ago. It doesn't matter if you kind of hold rank. It just kind of depends what rank you're kind of holding. Because if you're holding rank at 10k or even like 50k or 100k, you're quite happy. But you feel like at this stage you need to be making quite significant gains. And I'm at a point now where I kind of feel like just if I simmered until the end of the season, just hit one or two big weeks, I'd probably still finish in the top 100k, which is pretty much my target now. So yeah, we move, which is your favourite phrase.
Yeah, absolutely. Myself, I got a green arrow only just, and like you said, De Bruyne did me a lot of damage. As soon as that second goal went in, my rank gain plummeted. I was using the battle feature that Live FPL have put in, that Ragabolly's put in, which is really good because it is really good in one way, but also probably not good for your health because you're sitting there and you realise what effective ownership does to you, and kind of there's a lot of people who say effective ownership sucks the fun out of FPL, and I think there's to a degree there's something in that. So I was watching that, and as soon as De Bruyne got his second goal, I basically was on minus 0.67 points for that match, so it lost me rank. But I can't complain. I've gone up to 6,507 now, so well into the top 10k. I've just got to see what I do now.
What you had to save it for this season with me, didn't you? You couldn't have had your shocker last year.
Yeah, well, we were kind of near enough.
Save a top 10k finish.
We were near enough the same rank for a while, and obviously we've looked back at what happened and how we diverged in a previous episode. And I think at the end of the season we'll do that again and see what happened, and see why I went on a different path to you and what caused it.
Well, I can tell you why.
Go on.
And it's one word, and you mentioned him on the cancelled stream. It's that man Riyad Mahrez, who I did mention last week as potentially being the best City option going forward. I also mentioned that with a massive caveat that I had no intention of ever bringing him into my team again. But if you did, and I think Gemma Baggies did, she was mentioning him on Twitter, fair play. But you're braver than me because I'm not going down that road.
Do you still feel like that now? Do you still like...
Oh, yeah. Oh, he looks absolutely phenomenal. He looks brilliant. Bench next game. No doubt.
You feel that way? He'll be benched at Fulham, will he?
I don't know. I mean, it depends. It looks like he isn't cemented as kind of first choice. And actually, I feel like that could actually benefit him in the league. And this is what I said last week, is that if they are going all out for the Champions League, maybe it's going to be Mahrez that plays the majority of minutes in the league, which does make him a good option. I think De Bruyne is the one I'm really looking at now. I mean, it's easy to say after he gets 2 goals, but I'm looking at my players at the moment are Cancelo, Stones and Gundogan, and I'm going to be wildcarding in a few weeks, and I'm strongly thinking of switching that completely around. Get Diaz in because he plays every minute, and go for De Bruyne and Gundogan.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that when we get a look at defensive data, because I think that is a very good point. I just want to touch on, there's a little league we're involved in, and normally I don't like to talk about it very much, but I just thought I'd bring it up. The Great and the Good League.
Obsessed, I believe, is the word.
Well, but there's been a bit of a change in the Great and Good League, and I don't, we shouldn't really spend 45 minutes talking about this, but I've put aside about that 45 to I'm top Yeah, and it is bizarre because I look back and game week 20, I was 69 behind General, and that's 7 game weeks ago. And so to claw that back in 7 game weeks, and I've had one decent, you would say, very good game week, but I think other than that, I've just been consistent. Whereas Fabio and General have just dropped away a little bit and had a few bits of bad luck. I mean, General had his bad luck with Grealish, and then he got Barnes, and that can happen.
Still got him, hasn't he?
Is he still got Barnes? Yeah, he's still got Barnes and Justin. It's interesting watching him and the way he plays. He tends to just if he's got an injured player, he'll leave them on the bench, even though they're losing value. He obviously has no regard for or not same as me. He doesn't have the same obsession with team value as I do. He's quite happy to lose money on Justin and Barnes and just concentrate on his first 11. I think what's interesting with both Fabio and General is I think they've both still got Salah, and I got rid of Salah in 23. And I think that helped me obviously I got Son in, but also that helped me get Kane before them. And it helped me hold on to Calvert-Lewin and get Dino and players like that. So that little bit of extra cash that I freed up by selling Salah, I think helped me close the gap on these guys. And ultimately this week I overtook them. So it's going to be close now. Can I hold on to it?
Hats off.
We'll see.
You wanted to climb out. I've been having my battle with late riser down the bottom. Tom Freeman's pulled away. He pulled a good bench boost out of the bag.
He spent 32 points, wasn't it, in the bench boost?
Fair play to him. I mean, Dawson scored and Areola and stuff. It was amazing. But yeah, no, you've done amazingly to climb top. I mean, Andy's in the chat. He says you're lucky that Greyhead took him out. Well, I don't know why Greyhead did take him out. I suppose he doesn't really think Andy's great or good.
Well, it must be it. It must be that Mr. Slippers doesn't cut anymore. I tell you what, before De Bruyne got his goals tonight, I was only 30 points behind him, Mr. Andy, that is. He's my next target, okay? So
surely not.
Really?
Surely not.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I've got to try, haven't I? I think it helped having General and Fabio to chase. Helped me. And I think next it's going to be I'm going to chase Andy. So yeah, there you go. I hope those mind games start playing.
Well, Greyhead's threatening of booting me out of the Great in the Good if I finish. I think I've got to finish 4th from bottom.
You've got to beat
we
Joe.
We are not doing this segment next year if I'm not in this. Just so you know. So you better hope I get. In it.
Well, it'll be Andy taking your place. Yeah. So hopefully I've rattled Andy a bit. Let's see if that affects him in his live streams. There's a bit of controversy in that already this week. I don't want to add to that, but anyway, we'll go and see if I can catch Andy next. I've got to hold on to this top spot first of all. Let's look at some data then from the season so far and the last 4 game weeks. We're going to look at some team data first. And the reason why I asked about the Man City defence is while it's still top over the season in our table here for minutes per expected goal conceded non-penalty, it is that thing about Cancelo and Diaz. Now Cancelo, we've both got 2 City defenders and Gundogan at the moment. And Cancelo has missed 2 of the last 4 now. And when I saw the team sheet tonight and then when De Bruyne did what he did, like you, I was thinking, well, it is probably time to move and shift to just the one defender, which would be Diaz. And give myself the opportunity to get 2 City midfielders in. Because I don't, Gundogan scored again tonight. He was a bit deeper, but I think that was because they played the false 9 and Foden was the one who was really getting into the gaps that Gundogan has previously taken up. And Foden's not a certain starter. I mean, he played well tonight, brilliantly, but he probably won't play at Fulham. So I don't think we can say, that what we saw tonight is going to be what we see of City going forward. It's so fluid. It changes all the time. So I want to hold on to Gundogan, but obviously giving yourself the opportunity to double up on a De Bruyne or even a Mahrez is probably the way to go. And is that what you're thinking too?
Well, yeah, I mean, BlackBox lessons, rule 1, getting nailed on players. So Stones is no longer nailed on. That is just a fact because Laporte's back and they're rotating. Like you can see it. It was pretty obvious when Laporte came back from injury that was probably going to happen. There was a game, I think, where Laporte went over to left back and Stones and Diaz played. And I've kind of thought, that might be something they carry on doing going forward. Yeah. But Zinchenko has been playing so well that he's now just kind of taken that spot and Mendy's completely out of the picture. So it is Stones and Laporte fighting for that spot. So I just don't think Stones is Cancelo's that kind of guy who could play and get you 15, 16 points. Whereas I know Stone's been chipping him with a couple of goals lately, but I think I'd rather have a defender in who plays more regularly than him. and then I can focus on the double attack. So I think Diaz and De Bruyne and Gundogan is now the way to go. I just think that's got the most potential for me for starts and for points.
The other thing that makes me think about losing a City defender is they're rotating now in the league games, and they're not as secure. I mean, tonight they got exposed a couple of times.
Well, they're conceding goals, aren't they?
Yeah. So that's the other thing. Not only is Cancelo not starting, I don't think when you look at the options now we've obviously got Luke Shaw, who's been very creative, and United looking a bit firmer defensively. I mean, they're up there in fourth over the season in our table here on 86.6 minutes per expected goal, non-penalty. Conceded, that is. And then you've got the Chelsea defence, which is second overall for the season, but over the last 4 matches is top. They are the strongest defence in recent times. So you've got Rudiger there, who's a bargain, but you could also take a gamble maybe on Alonso for 1 or 2 game weeks. So I look at it now.
Azpilicueta, I think, is
Well, I like him too. I just don't want to try and pronounce it. So, I mean, with Luke Shaw and the Chelsea defence, and also a word here on the West Ham defence. I mean, I'm looking at Creswell as a player to get in for 29. But if you look at our tables here, West Ham now are the 5th best defence over the season and 5th best over the last 4 as well, in terms of minutes per expected goal conceded. They're strong. The West Ham defence is strong. So arguably Creswell, with the end to the season that West Ham have got, which is a pretty decent one, he's another player to throw in the mix. So it's all adding up to cutting back to one City defender, because we've got City conceding and great options elsewhere.
Yeah, and then you've got the likes of Dean as well, who I still like despite the 0 points. But the reason I like him is because every time I watch him play, he's just bombing down that left-hand side. He sometimes plays at wing back. He had a spell at left wing earlier in the season. So yeah, no, I completely agree. Creswell he's the highest scoring defender in the game, isn't he? I think, which is remarkable. But then you've got Soufal as well, who I think, money no option, you pick Creswell. But if we are looking for the likes of De Bruyne, and maybe you're looking for like Fernandes, De Bruyne, Kane, and whoever like Joe did earlier in the season with the 4 premiums, then the likes of Soufal might offer sort of a better bang for your buck. But yeah, there are definitely defenders emerging who look good. I mean, Dallas is still, I think, a really strong option no matter where he plays. He could have had an attacking return against West Ham. I mean, how Leeds didn't score in that game was just absolutely remarkable.
Rafinha again setting up chances for Bamford.
Bamford played like how we all expected Bamford to be before the season started, just missing chance after chance. He didn't look like up to the level at all. But then we know, because we've seen him in previous matches, that he can deliver. But such a frustrating game to watch. I mean, people going into that game with triple leads with Dallas, Rafinha and Bamford kind of, as a legacy from a few weeks ago.
That's what I had.
Yeah. Exactly. Just awful. So yeah, disappointing. I mean, I had Antonio as well, and Antonio looked like he can't run half the time. Well,
I mean, I looked at him and he's not what he was before the injury. Something's happened. He looks like he's even bulkier, and you know what I mean, less mobile now. And I said to you previously, I think if you watch him running off the ball as well, when he's pressing and when he's chasing and running the channels, he's doing less running than he ever used to do. And whether that is because Moyes has gone, look, conserve your energy, we don't need you to get injured again, let Lingard, let Benrahma, let Fornals do the running around you. But he is definitely covering less ground. He is staying more central, staying in the penalty area. He's got 2 goals, but both the goals have been tap-in. So I think while the points say that, he's back, he's a factor again, and the stats look okay still, as we'll see in a bit. When I watch him play, I don't think he's a player I want for Game Week 29 anymore.
What was remarkable, though, was Moyes didn't take him off.
No.
And he took Lingard off. I mean, I looked at Antonio and I texted one of my friends. I was like, Antonio literally can't walk, let alone run. He was like standing, like just behind the halfway line, just kind of like almost hobbling around. And the sub came, and I was like, well, obviously he's taking Antonio off because, they need to hold this game and see this through. He takes Lingard off. And I thought, well, so he's happy with Antonio that knackered that he can't even move like properly. So yeah, I think there's something in that. Moyes obviously is seeing something which is more than pressing everyone and running around a lot. He seems to be quite happy to let Antonio kind of walk around a bit. But I still think Antonio's just got those moments of just class. I mean, you say he's bulked up. If he runs at you, who's stopping him? Lindelof isn't stopping him this week if he's in the mood. I can't see who they got in 29. They've got
Arsenal in 29.
Yeah, Arsenal. Yeah. I mean, Louise and that lot. Like, if he's in the mood,
okay,
he can still cause some damage. So I'm happy holding him. But I do agree. He's. I was really excited about owning him in that Leeds game, and I'm a bit less confident going forward. But I'm still happy to have him.
Yeah, well, we'll have a look at a Game Week 29 team in a bit, and sneak preview, he's not in there, and I'm pretty glad I've gone Lingard instead. But that could all reverse. Let's look at attacks over the season. Just what I want to talk about here is just Brighton. I mean, we know about the XG thing, and obviously this table draws it out. Last 4 matches, Brighton's XG is the best in the division. 42.5 minutes per expected goal. Incredible, isn't it? I mean, it's good timing in terms of we're now looking at Brighton assets for Game Week 29, maybe, but we're still just looking at their defence, aren't we?
That's including 2 missed penalties, so it's a little bit.
Well,
it's still
expected
high,
goals
even without the
expected goals non-penalty is still 52.2, which is second only to Spurs over the last 4. So,
I mean, Alexander Sante in the chat says Brighton is a sad team. Yeah, it is a sad team. It's sad being a supporter. I'm not going to waste too much time on them because it's the same thing I talk about every week. There is something fundamentally wrong with the mentality of Brighton, and there's something wrong with their composure up front. And I can't understand personally why Potter persists with the same formation that's struggling to get goals. I know they're creating chances, but do we need 3 at the back every week? You know,
well, you're top defence as well.
Mix it up a bit. Mix it up a bit though, like do something a bit different. Show everyone that this hasn't been working now for a year and a half. But just do something to change things up a little bit.
I've never seen a team register so high on the XG in terms of defence and attack without actually deliver on it.
We're going to get relegated being the top XG.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, like overall for the season, Brighton are 7th? For expected goals, minutes per expected goals.
We don't have anyone that can finish. We've got a team filled with all fart no poo players. This is the problem. Like Trossard, someone asked me about Trossard the other day.
Lovely player.
Lovely. Trossard sums up Brighton to me. He is an absolutely lovely player to watch, but he has got no end product whatsoever.
Well, Lallana, you signed him. It's like, he fits the template perfectly. That's what Lallana is. Yeah.
Classy player, absolutely fantastic. He does give us something in terms of leadership a little bit further up the pitch, which I like, but still makes the wrong decisions. You saw it against Palace. He gets the ball. He's got a great position. He's got 3 players to pick out. He shoots, hits it wide. Yeah. It's a wrong decision.
Well, at this point, I'd love to have played the sample that I had ready of you, but no, I can't do it. Such a shame. Arsenal,
my sabotage worked.
You did, yeah. To spike the whole thing. Yeah. Arsenal are second of the last 4 matches in terms of minutes per expected goal. Again, just in time for Game Week 29. And I know you're looking at Aubameyang, aren't you, as an option?
Well, I am. I mean, you've got to look at any out of position midfielder. I think when you've got a midfielder playing up front, it's always exciting, and this is something that we thought could happen when we saw Aubameyang reclassified as a midfielder earlier in the season. We thought, actually, A, he could be a good midfielder in his own right because he was one of the top scoring players last season, but B, if he does get a run up front, then he could be absolute gold. He still doesn't look right. He still doesn't look like the Aubameyang of a couple of seasons ago or last season. But another goal against Burnley and got the creative players around him. I don't know. I'm half tempted. The fixtures are really good as well after 29. Like for a wild card pick too. I know he's expensive, but
you can't get De Bruyne around Aubameyang, though, can you?
No, well, that's the problem. That's the problem because with Kane and Fernandes and everyone, it's tricky. I mean, the thing is with Arsenal is what do they prioritise? Because top 4's gone. I had a look at they're miles behind. They're so far behind. You know, they're going to be focusing on Europa, but I can't see them winning that either. So if they get knocked out of that fairly quickly, then then they're going to probably carry on playing the strongest team in the league. And I think he is sort of relatively settled on this Aubameyang up front with the likes of Odegaard and Smith Rowe and Saka and people behind him. So I think he could still factor in our seasons, but he's got to show something a little bit more to be ahead of the other. Yeah,
I mean, he's definitely got to be a free hit option because obviously you get him in for one shot and then that's it. And if he does the job against West Ham, but he is playing West Ham, who, as we saw on the previous table, defensively are very strong. So I don't know even if I guess if I had the free hit, I'd still gamble on it because you want to look for a differential that managers without the free hit won't have. And Aubameyang is definitely that. It's very difficult for me without the free hit to get him in. Right.
Yeah.
So if you're a free hit manager, you go to those players because you've got to try and eke out some advantage from this. And
Saka's a good alternative because, I mean, he's like, more than half the price. And, I watched the game against Burnley, and Saka's positioning, he's taken up some seriously good positions. His finishing is about up to the level of Brighton's, but he's creating chances, he's getting chances himself. So he's a lot easier to fit in as well. And probably he's going to
be a great player for us next season because I don't think he'll get a hike, but I don't think it'll be massive. And you got to think next season he'll go on again
around 6
yeah, and when he goes on, if he does kick again, he's going to be in the realms of pushing double figure assists and goals easily, I would have thought. So he's going to be one to look at next season for sure. Just before we leave the attacking data, I want to pick out Crystal Palace, who are bottom over the last 4 matches, because I don't know this week whether to keep my transfer and play Johnston in goal for West Brom at Palace, or whether to make the change to a Game Week 29 keeper, which I'll talk about later. Palace are bottom of this data, but Zaha is back now. You love Zaha. You love talking about him. Do you think I should throw this data out and go, Zaha back, you can't judge Palace by this data because they're 10 times better with him? Or do you think there's still something in it and I should play Johnston at Selhurst Park?
Oh, very good question. God, you're asking my advice.
Well, yeah, why not?
6K. I mean, I think, West Brom have been fairly solid lately, and it'd be interesting to see the defensive data on them. I mean, they were very lucky against Brighton, but against Newcastle, who are admittedly quite toothless, they defended well. I don't want to say it's difficult, but
it is tricky.
A keeper transfer rarely works out. I'd feel a lot more comfortable making a keeper transfer in a blank.
Yeah, and I think when I tell you what it is I'm thinking of doing, you'll probably go, no, play Johnston.
Oh, no, it's going to be Sanchez, isn't it?
It is going to be Sanchez, yeah.
Don't do it. Just play Johnston. We'll find a way to concede. We always do.
You think?
Yeah, just play Johnston. Definitely.
If
it's Sanchez,
tempting.
you're going to get.
Anyway, we'll see about that later on. The other
South
team
Coast derby as well.
Well, true. The other team I've highlighted here are Newcastle, because they're going to be really important to us in the next few weeks. They got Villa in 28, and a lot of people obviously bringing in Martinez or have him. Brighton in 29, and a lot of people are going to be getting on Sanchez, Dunk, Veltman, which we'll look at. And then they got Spurs in 30. So a lot of players who go into 29 with the Spurs triple, in fact, are going to be banking on Newcastle completely falling apart against Spurs. So Newcastle are so bad now, they're going to be key to us, aren't they, in the next 3 game weeks at least?
Yeah, they're their team to target for me. I just don't see... honestly, if they were doing better, if they had sort of 7 or 8 more points, I'd be a lot more worried as a Brighton fan, because we are in a relegation fight, but I can't see how we're going to get less points than Newcastle going forward. They've got no attack. They've got nothing. They've got no. They're completely toothless. And Jermaine Beckford said it when I saw him pundit. He said, you don't want to be going into a relegation dogfight with Joe Linton as your main striker, and it's hard to argue with that because he just doesn't seem to have the quality needed. That Bruce is under fire. The players are having training ground rows. There's Brighton kind of has a good atmosphere around it still. I think the players are still bought into Potter's philosophy and they're still playing the way he wants. Whereas Newcastle just seems a bit of a shambles at the moment. So yeah, if I'm picking players to target, it's Newcastle, and that's why I completely agree with you. I think that's why Spurs are such a good team to target, because they've got that game in 29 and straight into Newcastle, and then wildcard 31.
When we talk about Salah and we talk about the lure of going Bale or Son and getting Kane, it's not just about 29. It's about carrying them into 30 as well. Because, if you hold Salah through the blank in 29, you'll get to 30 and go, oh, I really want Son on Bale anyway, right? Because they're playing Newcastle. And that could be the factor that sways it for you. But we'll look at Salah, and we're going to look at players first of all just briefly. So here, this is data over the season. I've highlighted Antonio because, despite what I said about him looking a bit lethargic, he's still right up there, right at the very top when it comes to minutes per expected goal involvement on penalty for the season. Top player, really, when you consider the Brighton player there, who I'm not going to have a go at, is is hardly played in minutes.
He's been up there all season.
Yes, and I've been trying to avoid him. Interesting as well where Bale is now. I mean, we talked about him crashing into this last week. His arrival has also boosted Kane in this table, who was falling off it at times. But Kane is now clearly a force again in attacking terms, and Bale is even stronger in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement. Spurs have just been rejuvenated by him coming back into the team, hasn't he? In a different team.
Yeah, and it was kind of my dream. I remember Scoutcast we talked about when the Scoutcast? Wow, let's going back. The BlackBox, traitor. The BlackBox we talked about when Bale first signed. And, you said to me, do you think he can do it? And I was like, well, I don't know if he can, but I hope he can. And I'm very envious of people like Luke who bought him in, and, even the people who said, oh, you're just chasing points, bringing him in, and then he gets another 15-point haul
did it again
against Palace. And as we mentioned last week, they had a weak left-hand side, so he was perfect up against Van Aanholt in that. I love him. I just think he's so good. The only thing with him is, you're only going to get 60, 70 minutes out of him, and it's going to be the same issue that you have with him. So it's really hard to go for him over Son, because unless you go for, I think Kane is kind of a must at the moment, just with given how he's playing and the penalties and everything. I think then you're looking at either Son or Bale. Having the triple up seems a bit overkill. And I love Bale, but I just think Son is going to outscore him just because he's going to play more.
A safer pick, and again it happened, didn't it? Son played the full 90, Bale went off, got subbed, and that's just going to keep happening. Pointed that out last week, and I think that's the way it's going to be. Son stays on the pitch now, which is quite a big thing because he's on the pitch with Kane to the 90-minute mark, and eventually that's going to get him points. In fact, it did.
Difference is crazy, though. I mean, it's like 55% compared to like 3-4% for Bale. Like, it's so many points can be made if you are brave. But the logical part of my brain, which very rarely is activated, is saying it's got to be Son.
And the other thing is, I mean, free hit managers, it's a no-brainer. You get Bale in, and you may be considering for the captaincy in that Villa fixture because you know that, again, it's going to be difficult for non-free hit managers to treble up on Spurs. Some may, but not many will be able to. And therefore, then you're looking at the differential in terms of the captaincy. A lot of people are going to be on Kane. Maybe Bale, given the data we're seeing here where he's outperforming even Kane, is the option. He might even be the option this week at Arsenal. Last 4 game weeks, Bale and Kane right up there in 4th and 5th. What's interesting here, this is attacking data for the last 4 game weeks, and the top 5 players are all players in action in game week 29. So you look at game week 29 and think slim pickings, but actually this suggests there are some in-form options available. Kane and Bale, obviously.
Pepe,
Antonio.
wow.
Pepe, what do you make of Pepe?
Oh, I don't think he could score if you gave him £1 million for a goal. We mentioned him last week.
He's almost on £1 million per goal, I think.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he probably is with his bonuses. I 70 million, 72 million they paid for him. I don't even think he's nailed on. I mean, he's got the amazing talent of Willian pushing him for a spot. I don't trust him to start each week. I think that just makes him a no-go. I would just so much rather have Saka or Aubameyang than Pepe. He sits in between both of them price-wise at 9 million. He is... If you're getting in Pepe, it's desperate for whatever reason. You're either really trying to get into the top 1k and you're just going, just throw this out there, or you're like $1 million, $2 million.
Even on the free hit, he's not someone you gamble on. He scored at West Ham last time, didn't he? He scored there.
No, because why wouldn't you just get Saka or Aubameyang? They're just
because they're more.
I know
template.
the data here is I know. Well, Aubameyang isn't really. If you free hitted Aubameyang and he scores, you're going to get. They're still going to get a pretty big. And even Saka, no one's got any Arsenal players because they've been so poor all season.
Yeah,
Pepe's bottom on my list.
Yeah, sure. So a player down there on 183.5 minutes per expected goal involvement, non-penalty, is Mo Salah. So let's start talking about him because he is the most sold player by a mile going into game week 28. I took this screenshot about an hour ago, 274,000 transfers out. The next
It
player
wasn't
down.
an hour ago. You were stressing with the stream.
Well, okay, sorry, 2 hours ago. The next player down is Ings on 138,000. But the 4 players after Salah are all red flags.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah. So that's, it shows you the lack of confidence in Salah at the moment. The graph that we're looking at below that, I thought I'd throw a graph in. Not enough graphs.
Yeah, nice.
Graphs are sexy.
I like a graph.
Yeah,
It's nice.
I've got a couple tonight.
Yeah.
So this basically plots. So I mean, it's great for the podcast, of course. This plots Salah's point distribution. And for podcast viewers, imagine an Etch-a-Sketch where it looks like there's lots of peaks up until about game week 15. Then it flattens out with one peak around game week 21. Flattens out again. Effectively, from game weeks 15 to now, Salah has gone very, very quiet indeed.
Yeah.
One double figure return, I think it's been since game week 15. And that is what's led to where we are now. Obviously, he scored tonight in Europe. Is that going to be enough, do you think, to win people round? Obviously, he hasn't won round the 274,000 who've got rid so far.
I mean, I was looking at their home record, and like, you hear the stat of, they've lost 7 in a row at home. But when you actually read it, it's like it's bad even before that. I mean, they haven't won at home since they beat Spurs 2-1 in game week 13. And they've drawn with West Brom, they've drawn with United, they've lost to Burnley, then they've lost to City, then they've lost to Everton, Chelsea, Fulham. It's unbelievable. And and it was Carragher who said on Sky Sports that the biggest problem he sees is not even just the fact that they're losing, but the fact they don't look like scoring goals. And they've got 2 tonight against Leipzig. They did this last time. They beat them comfortably. Everyone was like, "Oh, this is Liverpool back." And then they had 3 games where they got 2 against Sheffield United and then 2 blanks. It's a massive concern. And Fabinho's back tonight, and so everyone's now saying he heralds the new kind of dawn because he unlocks kind of everything. But what happens if he picks up another injury again, which he could do because he might be rushed back. You don't know what the story is with him. And the front 3 just isn't clicking. There just isn't that same... There's something not right with the whole squad. The only thing that's different now is Jota's back and Fabinho's back. If you think that's enough to change Liverpool round, then you keep Salah. If you don't think it's going to be enough and you think there was more underlying problems than they can fix, then you've got to sell him.
Well, what did you make of the team selection, first of all, against Fulham? Because I was quite surprised that, obviously, Firmino had an injury, Mane was benched, and Trent was benched as well. And it was almost Klopp, he has admitted the league has gone. But, I mean, top 4 has still got to be, it's far from in the bag, a top 4. So I was quite surprised that he didn't at least play Trent in that game, let alone Mane. And what worries me about that as well, if I had Salah, was the fact that Jota is back, and now he's back here with that option then of going, well, it's Salah's rest, it's Mane's rest, it's Salah's rest, it's Mane's rest, and he can just flog Jota a bit. And he did it before, and then Jota got the injury, and then it disappeared, obviously. But that, with Europe obviously a priority, and given that he rested players against Fulham, do you even think that Salah's starting role in some matches going forward now could be in question?
I mean, it could be, but we saw it early in the season. I think that rotation is on. We also saw Jota taking Firmino's place, which seems to be his preferred place to play. And Firmino has been pretty dreadful this season anyway. We've also seen Klopp play all 4 of them together in other matches, so it is quite hard to judge. I just think if you've got a team struggling to score goals, you don't bench Salah. Like, he is the one. He's the one player who plays every game, and it was surprising to see him taken off in not in the last game, in the game before against Chelsea when they were desperate for a goal. They took him off, and he was absolutely
62 minutes. Wasn't
it? He was livid, like just absolutely fuming. Like, how can you take me off? And it's almost like Klopp is doing this as a kind of no. I think he made all those changes to be like, right, none of my main guys have performed. Here's my B team. Show me what you've got. Well, the B team have got nothing. There's no player who I saw play in that game who I felt should be deserving of a start to keep some of these players out. Jota was the best player, I thought. Smart, really good shot. Areola, good save. But other than that, I mean, Neco Williams is it just I don't think is good enough. That you look at the depth of their squad and you compare that to all of the teams around. I mean, look at Chelsea, the way they're rotating their players. You look at City, you look at United. They're miles off in terms of depth.
They've been exposed. They have been unfortunate with injuries, but they've been exposed.
Yeah.
And you know what struck me as well though was Fulham had 8 shots in the box. Liverpool didn't have 1, which is crazy. And that's what Carragher said about they don't look like scoring. It's not just Salah. It's just Liverpool have just lost. It's like they've forgotten how they fed Salah and Mane last season. They've forgotten how to do it. And I don't understand it. Obviously, Thiago's come in and it's a player that you've singled out as someone who's upset the balance. Maybe it is a bit of that. But I
don't think he's solely to blame. I don't think he's solely to blame because I look at the front three and think this has got nothing to do with Thiago. They're just not. They're not playing well. They're not playing well. None of them. Like in the games that I've seen. Yeah. And I mean the thing with FPL is like you look at Salah and you're paying that much money for him. He needs to be considered for the captaincy. Oh yeah, you can't invest that money and not have him as a captain, can you? Game weeks. No, you maybe could if it was like a couple of weeks ago when kind of money was no object and you could kind of feel like you're carrying him. But with De Bruyne now, like right back in it, with Kane, Bale, Son, Aubameyang, less so, Fernandes, there's too many premiums now starting to come into it, and he's on borrowed time. I think he needs to do something big quickly. Well, we talked about game weeks 15 to 27. Here's some data to look at the difference between his first 14 game weeks and 15 to 27 in this top table. And you can see here all of the key performance indicators I've picked out. Minutes per pass received, touch in the box, shot in the box, shot, big chance scored, expected goal involvement, non-penalty. Everything was stronger in game weeks 1 to 14. Everything. And what's stark here is the minutes per big chance scored is down massively from 120 minutes per big chance scored to 587 minutes per big chance scored. So that means it shows if you look minutes per big chance, there's not a big gap. 106.7 minutes in 15 to 27, 98.2 in game weeks 1 to 14. So he has had big chances. He just hasn't taken them. Yeah. I mean, look at the shot accuracy and the conversion as well. The shot accuracy, game weeks 1 to 14 for Salah, 53.2, conversion rate 27.7. Since then, 32.4 accuracy, down by 20%, conversion rate down by 17%. It's got the Brighton curse.
Just hasn't taken his chances. And so I then looked at Liverpool and going, well, is it Salah or is it Liverpool as well? Is it just generally the team? And yes, there is a dip between 15 to 27 game weeks 1 to 14. Liverpool were stronger for lots of key statistics in the first 14 game weeks, but not massively. Not as big a swing as we see in the Salah data. But what is surprising, I looked at that conversion rate for Liverpool, 5.4. So they've converted 5.4% of their shots into goals. And I thought to myself, that's terrible. That's surely got to be one of the worst in the league. And that table next to it, from game weeks 15 to 27, there's only one team with a worse conversion rate in Liverpool, and that's Fulham. And that's just 5.3 versus 5.4. So effectively, Liverpool, who are champions of the Premier League, since game week 15, have got the worst conversion rate, second worst conversion rate in the league. And so,
clinical, right?
But how do you explain that?
Salah and Mane have been clinical like the last couple of seasons. It's kind of they get chances, they take them.
Well, look at that Palace away game. I still had Salah in that game, and when they won as they did in that fashion at Selhurst Park, I thought to myself, "Whoa, well, I'm holding on to Salah. This is look at the. He came on a sub, didn't he, and scored 2 goals. And Liverpool were absolutely ruthless in that game. But that was like the one game we've seen them look like last season. Since then, they've just forgotten how to do it. It's utterly bizarre.
I look at the games, so I'm thinking, I've watched pretty much all the Liverpool games this season. I'm thinking back to Fulham last, Chelsea, Everton, City, Brighton. So they're the last home games. They have not looked like a team that can score in any of those games. I don't think. Against Chelsea, I can't think of a single chance they had. Against Fulham, I can think of that Jota shot, and that was it. Like the conversion rates and stuff. I mean, It's not like they're getting loads of chances and they've suddenly gone off the boil and it's not like Brighton. They're creating loads of chances and should be finishing them. They're not creating anywhere near as many clear-cut chances as they should be.
You say that, but game weeks 15 to 27, their minutes per chance created is actually up. So this says they are creating shots on goal. Perhaps it's the quality. If you look at minutes per XG non-penalty,
doesn't that mean worse though? Doesn't that
the quality is different? No, they've had a chance every 8.2 minutes since game week 15, whereas 1 to 14 they had a chance every 8.3 minutes. So
sorry, I'm looking at Salah.
Very, very close. No, Liverpool was a team.
Yeah,
so they actually, Liverpool have carried on creating chances. I mean, if you look,
they can't be as good. They can't be as good.
Well, the quality
hasn't
been as good. Minutes per big chance, 15 to 27, 42 minutes. Before that, it was 29.3. So yes, the big chance frequency has dropped, but also they just haven't taken those big chances. Bayern, massively dropped off on taking those chances. Yeah. Is it down to the quality of chance? To an extent, I think it is.
The big chances is 42 minutes.
Yeah,
15 to 27 and 29. So it does. It says it to me. I don't see a team that's creating lots of chances when I watch Liverpool. And whether that's because they're playing Henderson and Fabinho when he's fit in defence, and they haven't got that energy in midfield. Thiago just doesn't look like he's adding what they bought into the midfield. The front three are just completely off the pace. Jota's been injured. There's loads of excuses they can make, but the fact is they should not be second bottom to Fulham. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I wonder what Klopp is going to do, because every week they lose at home. And I do wonder, when does the patience run out with him?
Well, we'll see. So given that, I just wanted to basically look at the scenarios and whether you would sell Salah. And I just put some statements together. I know you disagree with some of these, but I wanted to be a little bit more let's be a bit more finer with things. Let's try and help people depending on their scenario. So the top scenario here, if you own Kane and you have no free hit, but you're going to wildcard in 30 or 31, what I'm saying is, yeah, it is us. If you had Salah now, I'm saying here, you keep for game week 28, you sell for Son or Bale in 29, and you have another look in the wildcard, because Liverpool's fixtures for the run-in are favourable. Do you agree with that, first of all? I don't think you do you?
Before, when you sent this to me earlier, I said straight back, the only thing I disagree with here is keeping for 28, because I think there is a case you could make for selling him right now for Aubameyang, Son, Kane, getting Fernandes back if you sold him last week. I know it's only for 1 week, but I look at that away at Wolves game and think, I can't see them getting loads of goals in that. Wolves haven't been great this season, but 0-0, 1-0, one way probably isn't that unlikely. North London derby, there's goals in that game a lot of the time. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's as clear cut as keep him or sell him. I think there is a case for selling him this week in preparation for 29. The thing is, he's got the Monday game, and it shouldn't influence me, but it'd be nice going into that game with Salah rather than not with Salah.
I mean, the data we see later on Wolves suggests to me that he might be worth just keeping patience for one more game, knowing that you're going to sell him in 29 to get that extra Spurs player in. And obviously, we said in game week 30, Spurs have got Newcastle, so they've got a favourable fixture there. And then when you play the wild card, you think, well, okay, have I made an error? Can I get Salah back? I think that's sound, but I know what you're saying. And when we look at the data later, when we look at the captaincy, perhaps you'll see where my point of view is. But
I think the thing is that none of those options have like a standout game. Like if Son had Newcastle this week, then that could make your mind up. But the fact that it is Spurs v Arsenal, there have been goals in it, but there's still two relatively evenly matched teams. Yeah. It could be quite tight.
And don't forget, you've got Kane here in this scenario. You own Kane, right?
So you've already got Kane, exactly. Yeah. So that is something. Yeah.
Next one, you've got the free hit in 29 and your wild card in 30, 31. A lot of managers in that situation. Again, I've said you keep for 28. You obviously free hit him out in 29 and bring in your Spurs players, and then you assess when you play the wild card. And you may well play the wild card in 30 because you want to get the Spurs players permanently for the Newcastle game. What do you think about that? Again, I'm keeping for 28 in this scenario. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, again, that's It's that 28 option. I think I think the big question is what you do with him on the wild card, because it could be quite tempting to go that way. I mean, Granville's in the chat. Granville's been doing well, soaring up the rankings, similar to you. No Salah has been kind of key to that. So, I mean, are you thinking of getting him back in? You've been doing well without him. He can't really be putting
not
himself
at the moment. No, I mean, it would be Jota, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be Salah. So my way of looking at the Liverpool fixtures for the run-in would be, why would I go Salah over Jota at the moment?
Well, yeah, I completely agree. Well, it's similar to Saka and Aubameyang, isn't it? It's like it's almost like the price almost dictates your moves a lot of the time, because if you had the money to do Aubameyang and Salah and didn't go for Jota and Saka, you'd have 10 million in the bank or more, 10, 15 million. And you don't want that.
And if you disregard penalties, and by the way, they've only had one penalty, I think, since game week 12, then basically the gap between Jota and Salah isn't that big if you look at some of the data, and we'll look at that probably in the weeks to come when we have this conundrum with the wild card. And remembering how Jota was, I think he's a very good bet. So, yeah, I mean, again, it's very difficult to say whether you keep him for 28. At the moment, I'm saying that based on the data for Wolves later on, in that he could be a differential captain. He scored tonight. Maybe that will be the trigger. But again, we've fallen for that already once before. Yeah. Here's the next one. No free hit and no wild card. Keep for 28, but sell in 29 for Son and Bale, and assess again ahead of 30, because for 30... there's a fixture swing on its way, and you probably want to look again then. But so if you own Kane, that seems to be the factor. If you own Kane, there is a chance you would keep Salah for 28. And personally, I think I probably would hold him just for 28 for the Wolves game, because I just think, looking at the Wolves' recent form and their defensive data, I mean, of the captain candidates that we look at later, Wolves' defence has conceded the most goals for the opponent. So I don't rate the Wolves' defence, but it just depends on... I mean, I didn't see Salah tonight. I don't know how Liverpool looked, but he scored, and maybe that is enough to just hang on to him. But
I think, just quickly, I think if you haven't got the wild card, I think now is the time you decide if you want to keep him long term or whether you want to sell. Because I don't think I'd want to be playing that kind of hokey-cokey with him, because I don't trust him enough to think I need to get him back in now. I need to get him back. I think, if you think they are going to turn a corner, then you keep. But if you think you're going to get more value out of the likes of Son and Bale and Aubameyang, then you make the switch and you kind of stick with it.
But do you go now or 29? Like I'm saying, you definitely go in 29, because he's a player off form, and for 29 he can get you Son or Bale. Right?
Well, that is the big question, isn't it? That is the big question. I think it's 50-50. I think Aubameyang or Son or Salah could all score similarly this week.
Personally, I think I would probably hold him if I had Kane, because I look at the Arsenal game as well for Spurs, and it doesn't suggest to me it's going to go like previous encounters have gone, with lots of goals. Because again, Arsenal's defensive data is pretty strong. Wolves have let in goals recently, so it makes me think. That just makes me think, let's hold Salah for one more game, get rid in 29 for sure, invest in Spurs for that.
Aubameyang is tempting though, because of the out of position factor.
What, for the derby as well? You'd have him for the derby, would you?
He likes a goal against Spurs.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, well, the picture changes completely if you don't own Kane. What we're saying is, if you don't own Kane, you sell him now. No free hit and wild card in game at 30, 31. I would think you sell for 28, you sell for this game week, you get Kane in, and you get Bale and Son in, if you can, depending on whether that's for a hit. Because I just think you need to be taking Kane into that derby, and you want him for 29 anyway, and you're going to want him for 30. And I think when it's a comparison between Salah, Son and Bale, if you've got Kane, or Salah versus Kane when you haven't got Kane, that's when I think that's enough to tip me into thinking, no, I need to take Kane into 28 as well as 29 and 30. So that was my impression. And again, the other option here, free hit in 29 with a wild card in 30, 31. Even with the free hit in 29, I think you sell Salah now and get Kane in for the derby. Because I do think going into that derby without Kane, I looked at the poll for Fantasy Football Scout, and he is the top captain choice. So even though I don't think necessarily there's going to be a goal glut in that game, I think if Spurs score, and I think they could get one at least, it's going to involve Kane, and there's going to be heavy captaincy on Kane, I think, as well.
I don't really get that.
Get what?
I don't really get why Salah is suddenly sellable for Kane, probably for a hit, when you've said that Salah is, Wolves are bad and Arsenal aren't that bad.
Because I don't think, if I had Kane, I don't think I'd want to double up on, I'd necessarily take Son and Bale into that game over Salah if I had Kane. I think Kane is enough. So
you'd lose one of Son and Bale?
Well, I haven't got Son or Bale. Right? In the top scenario, I own Kane and I own Salah. Would I sell for either Son or Bale for 28? Probably not. But if I didn't own Kane, I think for me, Kane is the superior option amongst those Spurs assets, who you're going to want for 29.
But you wouldn't sell Son or Bale to get Kane?
No, that's not on this screen. I haven't considered that option. No, I definitely wouldn't do that.
No. But I'm just saying,
I couldn't look at every scenario. I was just.
So you're taking. I'm just saying you because you're taking a hit. Then you're selling Salah for Kane effectively, but because they're in different positions, you're going to have to take a hit.
Yeah, I mean it depends. Depends if you might not. You might have saved your transfers for 29. If you don't have a free hit, you probably have saved your transfers, right? So it really depends if there's a hit involved. If there was a hit involved, it's very tight.
I think if you've got Son or Bale and Salah, I don't think this is the week to take a hit to bring in Kane.
No, probably not.
Salah.
But I haven't said on here whether you own Son or I'm just basically trying to cut it back. But
I think you could escape this week not having any Spurs.
Any Spurs at all?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that there could be a couple of goals in it, but I don't think any of them are going to go absolutely ballistic.
It's just not having Kane. I think is difficult. Because I think his effective ownership will be high. I think it's when you know you're going to want him for 29 and you're going to get him for 29, which you are, whether you've got a free hit or not, surely you're going to get Kane for 29. It's very tight whether you bring that move forward early and make it in 28. If you had to do it with a hit, possibly not. But if you've got 2 free transfers going into 28, I think I would. I think I'd get Kane
really
and lose Salah.
I don't think I would.
No, okay. All right. Yeah, it's. I mean, it comes. This decision to sell Salah comes in a week where the captaincy is very tough as well.
So then I'm saying that, and I say I'd sell Salah for Aubameyang. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it is. It is difficult. There you go. As you sound bite.
Well, the final scenario here is no free hit and no wild card. Again, I think I would bring in Kane early. Because you haven't got the free hit to bring him in. You're going to bring him in for 29 surely, so bring him in early. But again, if the hit's involved, it does change things.
Well, I think without the wild card, I think Kane is a better option than Salah going forward. So I think and I said this, I tweeted this the other day. I mean, when the double game week just gone, I basically ended up taking a big hit to bring in Kane. I could have just done Rashford to Son, but I thought, no, I want Kane. He's the one that looks to me the most promising player with Bale, and he looks like he's getting further up the pitch and whatever. So I took the -4, and actually Son outscored Kane, and I was kind of cursing myself and thinking, oh, why didn't I just do the easy move? And then this week it turns around so quickly because Kane gets 19 and Son just gets an assist. So suddenly now that was the right pick to do. So this is what I mean. If you don't have the wild card, I think you've got that ability to look much more long term. Whereas if you've got the free hit and the wild card, then you only have to worry about the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's it.
And I don't think there's going to be a huge amount in it, particularly this week between Salah and Kane. Obviously in 29 there will be because one of them's got a game.
And in 30 as well, right?
And in 30, yeah.
So I mean that's why I'm saying here, if you don't have any chips to play, no free hit, no wild card, I would bring in Kane this week.
I would as well. Yeah. If I didn't have the wild card, I'd be getting in Kane.
Yeah. And I was listening to FPL Wire and they were advising back on what to do, and he wasn't. I think he was going without Kane again, and Zoff was saying, no, you want to be doing Kane even for a hit and getting Salah out. It is a massive conundrum, but the black box theory is you get rid of players who aren't performing, right, and you get a player like Kane. So Salah, there's no two ways about it, isn't performing for managers, and Kane is sitting there. Who's probably going to be a high effective ownership for 28, a certain player, probably the most popular captain for 29, and then he plays Newcastle in 30.
Yep.
So I think it's, like you say, if you don't have the wild card, I think the lure of bringing him in and getting rid of Salah and doing 2 moves is really, really strong. But we'll see later when we look at the captaincies that there is a case for holding Salah still. Certainly if you do own Kane. Okay, what is next on the agenda? I want to look at the free hit situation. We talked about it already. Neither of us have got it, but we have been building with this in mind. And at the moment, I think I plan to have 8 players, and I've got a free hit team here. Now, what I've picked here in this table in column A is what I consider, if I had the free hit, the strongest team I could pick without really looking at differentials. Yeah, absolutely. And Lingard is definitely, what's he, face? Maybe?
That's definitely rose-tinted specs.
Okay, well, we'll see. So I've gone Sanchez, Cresswell, Dallas and Veltman, Bale, Son, Rafinha, Lingard, Aubameyang, Kane and Bamford. So I've gone 3-5-2. That for me would be the free hit team I would pick. If I was disregarding my rank and differentials and wasn't trying to be clever and overthinking it, that's what I would pick. And I think I can get 8 of those players. So I will be going in, I think, into game week 29 with Sanchez, Cresswell, Dallas, Son, Rafinha, Lingard, Kane and Bamford without any hits at all. So and I think that's probably enough. Right. So first of all, what do you think of that A team there?
If you can get that A team, you're getting a solid green arrow.
If you've got a free hit, yeah.
If you've got a free hit, because people aren't going to have that team, and that team does look really good. It's not a week that looks particularly great, I don't think, FPL wise. There's not games in that. I mean, Brighton Newcastle is going to be an interesting game because the loser of that could end up relegated. So I don't think that's going to be an absolute goal fest. That's going to be probably quite a nervy.
Surely going to be 0-0, isn't it? I mean, I look at that and think Newcastle's going to go there and try. Neither team wants to lose it, right? They're going to try and play a draw and hope that Fulham falter and trip up, I guess.
Well, I think Brighton will look to win it.
You think?
I think they will. I think they have to. Brighton don't want to be in a relegation fight. It's not the plan. Like, we shouldn't be down where we are. And I think, beating Newcastle should be a bit of a marker in kind of staying up. Veltman's really interesting because Lamptey's ruled out now kind of for the season, which has been an absolute huge miss for us. He's good. Like he's attacking wise. I was going to say, I did a quiz last week and Bruno, our old captain, turned up and he was really singing the praises of Veltman, saying he sees him in training, like absolutely quality. Plays. I don't think he's ever played right wing back before, but has really kind of made it his own. I still think, though, if this was my table, I'd switch Dunk and Veltman. Well,
that's interesting, right? Because
I still think Dunk is the pick.
This is the data on Veltman. This is defenders' goal involvement last 4 game weeks. Only Alexander-Arnold is stronger than Veltman over that period. So Veltman has had 9 shots, 7 of them in the box, and created 4 chances. Only Alexander-Arnold can beat him for expected goal involvement over that spell. That, for me, makes me favour Veltman. There's the price. He's cheaper than Dunk. Dunk, obviously, his set pieces is the threat. So he's perhaps got...
Well, I think he's on... The reason I like Dunk is because I think he's our main threat.
Right.
When you've got players like Lallana, Gross, McAllister, Trossard, and they're all taking free kicks and corners and putting balls in, you've got Dunk taking free kicks as well, some quick free kicks.
Yeah, true.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him step up and take a penalty, to be honest. None of our players can take a penalty. So yeah, that's why I like Dunk, and I don't often favour the centre back, but I do think if anyone's going to get an attacking return, it's probably him. But I do think now Veltman has no competition. Yeah, there's no one that can play there. The only player that could play there would be Ben White, who can't play there. No. So the
trigger was the Lamptey injury. Once Lamptey got injured, for me, I had Dunk in there until I heard that news, and then it was like I swapped them. So what you see in the B column are players that we can consider as alternatives, I think, if we were playing the free hit. So Meslier in goal, Reguilon, Target, Dunk in defence, Lookman, Souček, Saka, Pepe in midfield, Pepe in there just for you, Antonio and Madja. And it's interesting, I've gone the 3-5-2 with Kane and Bamford, and I think Bamford is superior to Antonio, but he'd be my second choice. And if I was going 3 up front, then it would be Antonio. Obviously.
I still prefer Antonio.
Do you?
Lingard.
Over Bamford? Over to Lingard.
Over Lingard, yeah.
Why? Lingard, was it 5 returns in 6?
Yeah, he looks lively. I just think Antonio is going to... I mean, you saw his stats. His stats are still up there. Best of the league over the season. He's still that player who I think can steamroll.
But he's not that player. But we said earlier, he's not that player yet. I don't think he's back to what he was. And the thing is, I look at Lingard and... He didn't have a great game against Leeds, I'll give you that. Second half, West Ham just disappeared and just contained them, didn't they? In the first half, though, when he won the penalty, every time he gets the ball, Lingard, I just think there's a spark, and he looks to be positive, and he looks to be confident. And that was probably his worst game he's had for West Ham, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I just think he gives you that little bit more, that little bit of excitement. If Antonio was full pelt, then I agree with you, but I just don't think he is. So for me, I think Lingard's the superior pick. Be interested to see with the free hit. And I think with free hit managers, they will go Lingard because they're looking for a difference. They're going to know that a lot of managers will be taking Antonio in. A lot of non-free hit managers.
His ownership's plummeted, though.
Has it?
Antonio. Right. He was actually a real differential for me. He's only 12% ownership overall.
Right. Lingard must be catching him up, if not overtaking him. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
Well, Lingard, I can tell you what Lingard is.
He was single figures when I got him, but
he's 8.5.
Right, so he's not a lot in it.
He's not far behind.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, I personally would do that, but what this shows as well. I tried to put a C team together, completely struggled. You got Watkins up front. You got defenders like Tierney, Konsa, Soufal, Martinez in goal, of course, but Martinez against Spurs. You know, if you're free hitting, you're not going to go Martinez. You're going to go Sanchez or Melier.
Or if Grealish is back, where does he fit into this?
Grealish, yeah. But at this point, I'd really like to play that Dean Smith sample. He's not going to be back, is he?
We live in the real world, not the fantasy world.
Yeah. He's not going to be back. We called it, didn't we? When all that came out and Smith was very vague. And lo and behold, every time he does a press conference, it's like he reels out his... I don't think Grealish is back anytime soon. Do you?
I have no idea.
I've got
no idea. I mean,
I haven't put him on here because I don't think he'll be in the race.
He's going to be back as soon as they can,
of course,
strap his legs up, give him bionic legs, do literally whatever they can. This is the best chance they're ever going to have of finishing in the top four. So they just need to get him back on the pitch. I don't think they're gonna care if
you thought he was available and you're free hitting, you'd probably go Grealish because again, no manager without the free hit is going to take him in. I don't think so.
I think the fact he hasn't played though now for a few weeks indicates there's something. Yeah, there's something fairly serious going on there. Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he missed out for another few weeks.
So
at least
what this shows me is that the pool of talent for free hit manager is quite shallow. And we kind of knew this when we looked at the fixtures, but when you actually try and put teams together, it's like, it's really hard to find differentials. Arguably Lookman, Souček, they're not really different. I mean, a lot of managers will have them without the free hit. So here's a question to you. How many players would you have to have that even if you had the free hit, you wouldn't play it in 29 and you'd save it for later, knowing that there's chaos to come, like there's 33 to come where 4 teams don't play, including City and Spurs, right? So you might want to save it for them. There's double game weeks to come that we don't have confirmed yet, so you might want to save it for them. If you had my 8 players there, would you play the free hit?
No way. No way. I would say if you've got 7 or 8 of that A list without a hit, you just take that in. Yeah. I don't think any of the fixtures are that good. I think the best fixture is Brighton v Newcastle. For Brighton players, don't trust any of their players. Leeds Fulham could be quite exciting, but I think most people have got probably Bamford and one of Rafinha or Dallas. Yeah. Anyway, and there's nothing else that excites me. So it's a horrible one because I think there's going to be loads of like underprepared managers who have been bringing in players who for the last few weeks who probably don't know Everton players and United players. Shaw, probably most transferred in player this week, doesn't have the game. They're not going to be that punished because I don't think any of the games are going to be particularly high scoring. The only advantage you've got is if you haven't been prepared. Obviously, if you're going into 29 without a lot of these players, so you haven't got the free leads, you would have Spurs. I mean, you're going to have one of Kane and Son at least. So you might go into the game week having not tried to build for 29, knowing you got the free hit with only about 4 players. And the other advantage you've got then, if you look at the fixtures of 28, you could go with an Everton player against Burnley, and you could go with a Chelsea player at Leeds. So you could look at Mount, or you could look at Calvert-Lewin or Adina. You could use your transfer now in 28 for somebody like that, whereas me and you, we're using our transfers to get a 29 player in. So that could be an advantage in that you haven't had to bother about thinking about 29, and you've been making transfers to this point to exploit it. Absolutely. Yep.
And so if Calvert-Lewin comes in, and that's your transfer, or Mount, you make Mount captain at Leeds, and I've seen a few people think about that, then perhaps that is one way you can capitalise, and then you play the free hit. But I don't think a free hit manager will get massive advantage over managers like us who have got 7 or 8 players.
Well, I think we've actually got quite lucky, because you look at Liverpool, so likes of Mane and Jota being injured, and Trent and Robertson and stuff. They haven't done anything to make us think we need to get them in, even without a game in 29. You look at like United, Rashford and people. I mean, Fernandes has been doing okay, but like Rashford and Martial, they're not making us think we need to get them. Leicester, you've got Barnes injured, Maddison injured. All the guys who could really have been punishing us for the last few weeks.
Yeah, true.
Haven't been. And so that's kind of, because you know what I mean, like some of the guys that play my mini league, they don't care about this game in 29. They'd see Barnes scores 2 goals, bring him in. We wouldn't, because we know he hasn't got the game. But if he'd carried on scoring every week, we'd still be refusing to get him in, and he'd still be scoring loads of points, and our ranks would be going down. So yeah, I think we've been a little bit lucky with that.
Well, the other thing is as well, if you have been building for 29 and you got Antonio in, or Lingard in, or Rafinha in, or Bale, or Son, or Kane in, they've all done well.
It's actually them that's been doing well.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So it has fallen.
Particularly Bale. If you've got Bale in, then you've nailed it.
But any of those, Antonio's got 2 goals since he came back. Lingard's done 5 returns in 6. Rafinha's been outstanding the last 5 or 6 game weeks.
Yep.
So you won't have lost ground by making those transfers. So I do think those managers who saved the free hit purposely for 29 have had a bit of bad luck in that respect. Because like you say, players like Barnes, who we wouldn't have been looking at during this phase, have obviously got injured. Grealish is another one as well. But yeah, they haven't been able to use it to really hammer home an advantage. And I still don't think they will in this game week either, because I think enough of us will be well prepared. And short of Aubameyang, if he turns up at West Ham and does something, he is the only differential I think that could hurt us. I don't really see anyone else there, and Bale, of course, if you don't have them. But that's about it.
Yeah, and I think we've been lucky with Chelsea as well, considering how well they've been doing. If someone like Werner or Alonso or James or someone had really kind of established themselves, I think we would be clamouring to get them in, just because of how solid they've been, how they're winning almost every week. I mean, look at Chelsea. I don't know who I'd consider from Chelsea.
Well, it's only Mount, isn't it?
Or Azpilicueta. They're the only 2 that I think I'd go anywhere near. Mount's dull. He is very dull.
He is, but
he'll tick over with the odd assist. But
he is. I mean, like if Jorginho isn't on the pitch, I think he could be on pens. He's on all the set pieces, and he's ticked along, hasn't he, nicely? So he, if I was free hitting in 29, he'd be a transfer I'd be looking at in this week. I think to see if Chelsea turn up at Leeds and get the result, which they could quite easily. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin or Dino is another player at home to Burnley. You'd probably use your transfer there, but that's about it, really. I don't think. Yeah, I do feel
14 points for Mount isn't bad at this stage.
he's been steady, hasn't he? But unfortunately, when we started the season, we thought Chelsea were going to be with Pulisic, Werner, Havertz. We were excited, weren't we? And it's just not materialised. No. And even the defence, you can't rely on starters. So Alonso at the moment, James at the moment, don't know, and Rudiger.
Do you know how many points Fernandes has got right now?
Bruno?
Yeah. 210. Close, 206.
Right. Not going to make the 300, is he?
I don't know. He could do, I just always remember Holly
in
the first Scoutcast saying he was going to hit 300. And I was like, there's no way.
And you laughed in her face.
I laughed and laughed. And he's gonna get close.
Well, I do hope Holly reserves a special message for you when he does hit the 300 mark. I hope she reminds
11
you.
game weeks to go, so we need just on 10 points a week.
It's entirely possible. Okay, let's do our predictions for game week 28 then. Not going to be easy, this, I don't think.
Is it going to be difficult, Mark?
It is.
Did you see my tweet about how it was you that said it originally?
It's not
me. Yeah, I was looking back at the old Scoutcast episodes to see about the time when I captained Jesse Lingard, to see you talking me into
did you find it?
No, I found the episode where I did it, but it must have been like, because when we used to end the Scoutcast, we used to chat a bit just between us, me, you, Granville, and Joe.
Yeah, well, off air, yeah.
Oh, fair. It must have been then, because there was nothing in the Scoutcast that made me say I was going to do it.
So there's no evidence at all whatsoever that I actually... Because I don't remember it.
I distinctly remember you saying you could win it. And I was like, maybe I need to do something a bit different then. And then I must have gone off and captained.
I don't believe a word of it.
Captain
It
Jesse,
never had. I said to you, oh, well, I'll have to admit it because it exists somewhere on YouTube, but it clearly doesn't.
There's no evidence. I looked. It's
almost
awful.
as if I wiped it from existence.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so let's talk about Game Week 28. Again, I'd love to have played a Dean Smith sample at this point. Newcastle versus Villa is the opening game. I'm going to go into this probably without Martinez, right? And I'm going to be banking on Newcastle getting a goal, which where it'll come from, I have no idea. It looks to be the surefire clean sheet for Martinez, doesn't it? It looks like, and the thing is, what's frustrating, Johnston made 5 saves against Newcastle and got, 1 bonus point, I think? And Martinez only has to turn up these days for Villa and he gets 3 bonus.
Didn't get him this week though, did he?
Did he not?
He got that save point taken off him.
He got relegated. Yes, the controversial save point that I had to take to Twitter to justify.
He definitely made 3 saves. Not happy. Yeah.
That was a recovery, I think. Yeah,
was that Gabriel?
Thanks very
Jesus?
much. Yeah, no, I still don't own him. Yeah, will you sort that? Yeah, lovely. Cheers. Bye. No, they don't answer my calls anymore, so it's nothing to do with that. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'm silly. I know if I don't get Martinez in, but the reason why I'm looking at Sanchez, not Martinez, is because the Villa play Spurs, and Brighton have got Newcastle, and Brighton have got Southampton this week, and I just think there's more chance over those 2 games of Sanchez outscoring Martinez, but maybe I'm completely wrong. But in this fixture, I've got to back Newcastle to score because that's what I want, and I don't want to be making a prediction. So I'm going to go.
How every good prediction is based complete bias.
I'm beating you. Don't slag off my style when I'm beating you anyway. I think I am. I haven't looked at Pot Noodles up.
I had a shocking week. This week. Yeah, right. Okay. I got 3 right, and you got some. The thing is, you're nailing loads of correct scores.
Yes. Well, this is it.
Bloody
blind luck, you say?
Yeah.
Okay. Newcastle versus Villa. I'm going to go 1-1. I think Newcastle will score. I don't like Villa. I'm at the moment. Obviously, I've got a grudge. I've got a chip on my shoulder about Dean Smith now, so I can't ever predict Villa's going to win another game, and I can't ever get one of their players. So I will go 1-1 Newcastle Villa.
So you're predicting Newcastle to score?
Yeah. Don't ask me who's going to score. I can't.
I live in the real world, not the fantasy world. And I think they won't score, and Villa will win that 2-0.
God, I wish I had that quote to play. It's so funny.
I did my best for you.
Good.
I'm much more happy playing my double Liverpool defenders in this game, and Target and Martinez will both be played.
Oh God, of course.
So
hopefully, it could really hurt me this actually, because there's a lot of managers out there with both, and I haven't got either, and my grudge against Dean could really hurt me. I maybe need to rethink this. Leeds Chelsea. Well, this is a decent game, isn't it? Don't go out 12:30 on Saturday. I think this is going to be. I'd like to think, even though Chelsea will turn up and be defensive, Leeds can find a way. The only thing that worries me is that bleeding pitch.
Yeah.
I mean, I see people talking about captaining Mount and backing a Chelsea player. What I would say is beware, because obviously Leeds have had time to get used to this pitch. Chelsea are turning up and be slipping and sliding all over the place. So they
don't look like they're used to it, though.
No, they don't. Well, Rafinha does. Rafinha is obviously floating on air, and he doesn't get affected by it. But Leeds, Chelsea, on a decent pitch would be 2-3 goals apiece, I think. Would be a classic. But on that pitch, 2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah, I think Leeds are creating too many chances not to score at least one. So I'm going to back a Chelsea win, though. I was going to say 2-1, but I'll go for a bit more. I'll say 3-1.
Havertz reborn. Are you buying into that after his goal?
Yeah, bringing him in. Bring him in this week.
Yeah,
I mean, there's obviously a player there, isn't there? He's, I was saying, like, when the first time, the reason I started with him was because I watched his highlight reel, and I've never seen a player with so many good finishes, so composed. Like, there's a serious talent if they can unlock him. So yeah, hopefully he kicks on.
I'm not totally convinced.
Really?
Not yet.
Oh, that's a soundbite.
I'm not saying he's rubbish. I'm just saying
when he wins the Ballon d'Or, I'll be putting this episode out.
I am not yet convinced with Havertz or Werner that they will adjust and ever be the quality players they should be in the Premier League.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Honestly,
thank you for saying that with such clarity.
Well, okay. If you play that back to me in a couple of years after Werner's won the Golden Boot, fine, I'll take it. But also, in a couple of years, if they both get sold to like AC Milan,
well, then obviously we won't play it.
That's what I mean. It's not fair, is it? That's like I can only lose by sticking my neck out.
Welcome to the world of sound bites and clipping people.
I want to give opinion.
If Brighton had scored one of their penalties, I wouldn't have been dragged through the mud.
I just don't see at the moment. Havertz and Werner are adjusting this season, right? And we expect more from them next season. And I haven't yet seen enough from either of them to make me think that they will ever adjust. Not yet. But we'll see. Okay?
I disagree, particularly with Havertz. I think Havertz will.
All right.
There's talent there, for sure.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. But is it enough to succeed in the Premier League?
I think Tuchel more than Lampard.
I don't want to come across like, the Premier League is a colour buff. It's the best league in the world. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the demands of the Premier League. And it's interesting. Werner did an interview recently where he was talking about, all the defenders are brutal, the pace and the strength. And it's very different ingredients. There's no doubt they're both quality players. But it's very difficult to adjust and find the way to adapt your play in the Premier League, right? It's not... I don't doubt they're good players. I just not quite. I haven't yet seen enough to think they're getting close to it. Put it this way: I'm not going to be jumping on them next season. Right?
I agree with that. There's nothing.
So how long do you give them? If you're not going to be looking at them next season either, how long are they going to have before you have to start thinking? Well, are Chelsea going to be looking elsewhere and working them out?
They've got next season.
Yeah, they've got next season. I think probably got another two because Tuchel's probably a change of guard.
But they could be pining to go back to Germany by the end of next season. Yeah, I think next season's key for both of them.
Well, I think there'll be other places other than Germany. I'm not saying that it's, I think there's other leagues in the world they can be successful in. I just think that there's something.
But why would they leave the best league, Mark?
I'm not saying that. I'm going to get loads of it aggro now on Twitter, aren't I? You just love one of them up. Yeah. Palace versus West Brom. I'll let you go first. Go on, Palace versus West Brom.
Oh, what an awful game it's going to be. There's always one, isn't there? And this is probably it. West Brom couldn't score against Newcastle, could they? And they kept a clean sheet. That was inevitable. I think that they needed to win that. Again, you could Brighton v West Brom, Brighton v Newcastle. I think West Brom v Newcastle was kind of just as important. So I'm gonna back Palace to win this. They've not been good.
You said to me play Johnston, and now you're going to back Palace to win this. So that's nonsense. You're giving me fake advice.
Well, yeah, but have my predictions been bang on lately? No, not really.
Go on. What are you going to say?
I'm saying I wouldn't probably sell Johnston for Sanchez this week. I think they're both going to concede, so I don't think it's really worth it. But I will back Palace to win this. And like you say, bias, I'm just hoping they do, because if West Brom do start picking up points, it's going to make it even worse for Brighton. So I'll just go for 2-0 Palace.
2-0, okay. I'm going to go 0-0. Yeah.
Could well be.
0-0. Yeah. Everton, Burnley. I'm hoping this is a goal fest. Right? I'm going to take Dino and Calvert-Lewin into this, and I see those two players as players that I've kept in the bank, benched last week, and now they're coming forward. And as I say, a lot of free hit managers will go to them because a lot of non-free hit managers won't have them, I would have thought. Not both, anyway. So I'm going to go for an Everton 3-0 win. We'll see later the Burnley defence, no great shakes. And so, although Everton, patchy, inconsistent, very hard to predict, I'll go 3-0.
Well, this is annoying because, I mean, Burnley ruined my Arsenal prediction. You talk about fine margins. I mean, I was like, yeah, Burnley aren't going to score in this, and they shouldn't have done unless Arsenal literally just
crazy goal,
give Wood the ball. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I sold Calvert-Lewin for Antonio this week because I was worried about that Leeds game not having any West Ham players, but it was in the back of my mind. Oh, I do like the look of this game for Everton. So yeah, it's a bit of a concern. It doesn't look like they're going to have the double game week that some people thought they might have. So that's good. But you got to fancy Everton to win this, but they are so inconsistent. I'll go for a 1-0 Everton. Okay. I don't think their attacking wise is that good.
Fulham Man City, I think Fulham could cause City problems. They're not giving up much space or opportunity to many teams nowadays. Defensive data's been strong, and they're playing decent stuff. City, again, this is the kind of game that they will try and manage out. I think get an early goal and manage it out. I think you've got to back a City win, but I'm going to go against that. I'm going to go a 1-1 draw.
Oh my God. Wow. I'm not. I'm going to back a nice, comfortable City win because, oh, God help Brighton if
I know
if Fulham get a result in this. Oh no.
Well, I think it's possible, right? We saw them push Liverpool.
Someone pushed Spurs. Like they were good against Spurs. Yeah. Fulham have been good in like the last 10 games that I've watched them play. You know, the beating Liverpool wasn't just because Liverpool was so bad. It was because Liverpool played really, really well. And, you know, with Lamina and Lookman and Marja there, they look like a really solid, well-drilled,
they've got a system,
team.
Right? They've got a system, and they've got players. They're creating a lot of opportunities, but they're not taking them. And I think they're not going to score many goals in any game, but they can contain opposition. They can have possession of the ball. I think they're going to compete with City in that level. And I think they're going to scare City, so I'll stick with 1-1.
I think they could score, but I can't see them being City are just too relentless.
Yeah.
The blip against United aside.
Go for it.
I'll go for 2-0.
2-0. All right. Okay. Yeah, probably the popular scoreline. Southampton Brighton. I'll go to you first. Go on.
Easy 1-1.
You think that's easy, do you?
I think that's easy. 1-1. We're not good enough to beat them. They're not good enough to beat us. Done. Next.
I think you're going to win.
Points to me.
Yeah, I mean, Southampton tonight did look lively, right? I worried about them with Ings out, and tonight they did look like, oh, okay, there is something about them still. Janapo and Adams, Ward-Prowse is consistent, and they've always got a goal in them with those players on the pitch from set pieces, or Adams can pull something out maybe. But Brighton's defence is strong, and they're just not taking their chances. But I think you're going to nick it. I think you're going to nick a goal and win this game.
Mark.
So I'm going to go 1-0, which is what is behind my Sanchez. There's a certain point when a team's involved in a relegation fight where something just switches. Whether it's luck, whether it's something in the dressing room.
Change your manager.
Mentality, yeah, there is that. But you know what I mean, where if a team's going to save themselves, you kind of tell 7-8 weeks out that there's going to be that team. And I think it will be Brighton. I'd like to think so. When I look at Newcastle and West Brom, Brighton are the team that I want to stay up, really. No offence to West Brom fans, to Gemma, and no offence to Newcastle fans. But I think when it comes to the football that Brighton are playing, the key ingredient that's missing is goals. And I think you'll just get one. I think you'll just get a bit of luck. You'll get one and you'll hold on to it. And it'll be backs to the walls, but you're defensively sound. I'm going to go 1-0.
Thank you. I wish I shared your confidence.
Leicester, Sheffield United. This is a dour game as well. I mean, like Leicester haven't really got much about them at the moment.
How did they beat us? It's so frustrating.
And Sheffield United are just surely giving up now. This is not a game you're going to stay in and watch and say, this is the guard. People are asking what the Garden Centre game is. It's not Southampton Brighton. I think that's got drama in it. This one, I just don't see what's at stake. Leicester will probably win 1-0.
Yeah, I could get on board with that. I don't really know where the Leicester goals come from with the injuries they've got. I mean, Iheanacho, I've got a friend up here who's a big Leicester fan, and he can't stand Iheanacho. And it's funny because I thought he was really good at City, and when he signed for Leicester, I thought what a great signing he was. But he hasn't really kicked on kind of how some people predicted. I think you've got to back a Leicester win. I think Sheffield United are now just done, and you know, Wilder's come out now and said pretty much we are done. There's going to be a rebuild. Players are going to leave, so they're literally just playing for pride now. So any team with any aspirations has to be putting them to the sword. So I'll just go for a 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of forget that Leicester are still where they are, right? It seems like they've
got a buffer.
They've petered out so much that I often forget they're still very much top four. Well, not challengers, they're there, right? So they just need Maddison back, but it's not going to happen, is it? I think he's more or less out for the season. They haven't said. Have they actually confirmed that? Don't think they've confirmed it, but it's kind of unsaid.
I didn't think he was out for that long.
Well,
what's he done? His
knee. Is it knee injury?
Or is it his knee? Right.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't see him back until maybe the very end of the season. We'll see. Maybe this team is coming out this week to deny that, counter that, but I don't think so. Hammers just said, oh yeah, Mark picks his predictions based on his team. Absolutely, yeah. Because in a way, like, these predictions are an extension of what I think for my team. I'm not.
Well, yeah, that's why you're doing better than me in both the predictions. And, no, it's true. It's true though, because but also, I mean, you're talking of getting in Sanchez because you think it's going to be 1-0.
Yeah,
not the other way round.
No.
So the predictions are kind of based on your transfers.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to go. Like sometimes I hear people contradict themselves. They'll make a prediction of a scoreline, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, I wouldn't get that player in." And it's like, well, you just predicted a 4-0 win for them. Would you not get that player in? So you've got to try. In my head, you've got to try and be consistent, and that's what I try and do. Although I'm sure if you scrutinise it enough, you'll find I'm probably not. Arsenal, Spurs, right? So we're I don't see a goal fest, and we'll see in the data in a bit why. Arteta, I think, just won't allow for that. And although Spurs go there in form and the Bale factor's there, I think 2 or 3 goals max. I don't see it being 4-3 or 3-2 or anything like that. I'll probably eat my words. But I suppose I've got to back a Spurs win, but 2-1 Spurs, back a Spurs win.
I've been really, really impressed with Arsenal in big games this season. You look at City, they lost 1-0, but they played well. They've beaten United, they've beaten Chelsea. They do seem to step it up, and their system works quite well when they're not kind of trying to really attack, and when they can be a bit more conservative and counter and stuff. So I think they'll frustrate Spurs, and I'll go for the reverse. I'll go for 2-1 Arsenal.
Yeah, the minute I said 2-1 Spurs, I regretted it, but I'll stick with it. United West Ham. Bruno at the moment is a favoured captain by many, but it's a difficult one to call this because the West Ham's defensive form, their confidence going into this game, and it's the kind of fixture that United would frustrate us on when we bat them. I might even go a West Ham win. No, that's too much. I will go with a 2-2 draw.
Yeah. I mean, it's be quite an exciting game, but a draw is quite a point prediction. Yeah, interesting one. Wouldn't be surprised to see win, draw, or loss for any of the teams. That's the kind of content. That is the kind of content.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, it's true. I think they're evenly matched, and I think if you'd said to me game week 1 that we'd be going into this match with West Ham and Man United evenly matched at a game at Old Trafford, you'd say it wouldn't happen. But the fact they are evenly matched, the fact this is a hard game to call, says something about where the two teams are. But I will back United win, just a 1-0 nervy. Talk about backs to the wall. I think they'll get a goal and just hold on to it and just have enough to see it through.
And then Monday night, a game where some managers will be holding Salah and hoping for the best. Wolves versus Liverpool. I often predict Wolves games to be 0-0. I think Wolves will concede a couple of goals here. I think Liverpool will concede as well because they are, right? They're just giving up big chances. And I don't see a lot of goals in that Wolves team, though. So I will go Liverpool to win 3-1.
Yeah, surely Liverpool can't lose again. Like, I don't know. It's one of those ones that kind of fallacy, isn't it? Where, you keep, rolling a dice and eventually it's going to come up 6. You think every time it's a 2. You think, there's more chance of it being a 6 next time, but it's not. The fact is they are just playing poorly. I just can't get behind Wolves. I just don't like them. No. I just don't like them this season. And I never back them to score. I don't think I ever will. So I'm going to back them not to score again and Liverpool to get 2. 2-0 Liverpool. Talk about bias. I mean, I probably will end up keeping Salah. So, yeah. So you still got Trent, right? You're keeping him?
Yeah, I'm keeping him for that game. I mean, Trent's done all right. I mean, he didn't play against Fulham. I'm really disappointed with that because I actually fancied him to do something for me. Williams had a lot of the ball down that right-hand side, and I was thinking if this was Trent, he would have maybe made something happen. But, Trent hasn't been great this season, has he? Or maybe I'm kidding myself. But I do think, Liverpool could keep a clean sheet of Wolves. I think they will nick one Wolves somehow, but I just think, as we're about to see, the Wolves' defence is a problem at the moment. I think they've got issues in defence. I think Nuno's got a bit of a problem. Let's just use the captain matrix a little bit and look ahead. And what's interesting here, and we talked about it earlier, the Salah captaincy isn't really there until perhaps game week 32. And that's what you were talking about in terms of if you are keeping Salah, it probably is going to be just for 1 week only, because looking ahead, immediately ahead, 29, 30, 31, 32, certainly there are superior captains that you would look at until maybe Salah at Leeds. But even then, you've got Fernandes at home to Burnley, which would be the popular choice, I would have thought. mean, do you see it any other way? I mean, there's fixtures there. Salah's got Villa at home in 31, but again, not particularly strong. But I just don't see it, and that's why I think Salah's long-term future for people playing the wild card in 30-31 is in doubt. I think he could come back into our teams towards the end of the season, because I think when we bring up the ticker, we'll see, and this is in alphabetical order, we'll see Liverpool's end of the season: Southampton, West Brom, Burnley, Crystal Palace, 35, 36 and 37 and 38. That's incredibly strong, right? But who knows what state they're going to be in at that point.
Yeah.
And even before that, they've got Newcastle, then United, then that good run. So, from 33 onwards, that's where perhaps you'll want to look at Liverpool again.
Well, I think it's last chance saloon for wildcarders, this Wolves game, because if he blanks again against Wolves, I don't think realistically you're going to own him until 35.
Well, even then you'll think maybe Jota. Right? If Jota does anything in this period between 30 and 33, when it comes to those last 4 games or a bit before, it will probably be him that we look to. Because, I mean, we haven't looked ahead at the captaincy, but if you look at Spurs' finish, 34 they've got Sheffield United, 36 at home to Wolves, 37 at home to Villa. I wouldn't mind backing Kane in any of those games. And you look at United, they end with Villa away, Leicester at home, Fulham at home, Wolves away. Not terrible. It's just at the moment, my confidence in Salah as a captain is just
I know, I completely
depleted.
agree. I don't think Salah's going to do enough against Wolves to be included in our wildcard teams in 30-31.
No. And there's not, the fixtures aren't there yet until the end to actually convince us otherwise. Okay, let's focus on Game Week 38, because it is a really tough captaincy. So as usual, our top table there has got all the candidates in it. It's got a lot of candidates because it's really hard to split them up. And in terms of minutes per expected goal involvement non-penalty, which is normally the factor we saw on, Bale is out in front, 132.8. Then it's Calvert-Lewin, De Bruyne, who obviously this data is not included in tonight's game either. So De Bruyne is perhaps even higher now. Kane, Salah, Fernandes, Gundogan, Son, and even Richarlison's got to be considered given his form going into the Burnley game.
And his new kind of positional tweak.
Yeah. But look at Bale's minutes per point. 8.8 minutes per point over the season, which is ridiculous.
Well, it helps that he's always taken off at 70 minutes and then score again.
Yeah, that is true.
Gets his points early.
So, I mean, if you were looking for a differential, you could do worse and look to Bale again and back him to do something in the derby, in North London derby. I'm seriously considering an Everton player, either Calvert-Lewin or Dina. And the reason why is this defensive data in the 2 tables below. You look at the defences over the season, and Burnley's defence is the worst amongst the opposition to these captain candidates. Minutes per expected goal conceded, non-penalty 68.3, Fulham next on 74.1, but this is over the season. When you look at the defence's last 4 matches, Burnley is still not great. I mean, in terms of XG conceded, they're the highest. But the defence that looks the weakest is Wolves. Minutes per expected goal conceded, non-penalty of the last 4, 48.9. Minutes per chance, 5.2. Minutes per big chance, 27.7. By far the worst, really, just ahead of Burnley. So Wolves have got problems defensively, that's what makes me think that maybe Salah is worth one more go if you have him. Is that enough to convince you? I mean, are you teetering?
I am teetering. I'm teetering because, like I said, I do like the idea of Aubameyang up front, and I've said I think Arsenal could well win that. If Arsenal do get 2 goals in that, Aubameyang is going to be involved in those. It's got the penalties as well, so that is a move that I'm strongly considering this week. I think Arsenal have got Olympiacos. Is that tomorrow night?
Yeah.
So obviously see kind of what happens in that. I expect Aubameyang will play in that game because Arteta's going to want to get a positive result, so that could end up putting me off. If that does put me off, I probably won't move Salah to Bale or Son, so I'll keep Salah. But yeah, I'm tempted to move, even with these numbers. Well,
Aubameyang's not even in the chart. It shows you how many players there are in the mix for this.
He is a punt. He's a definition of a punt, but I've got the wild card coming up, so I can kind of afford to take it.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of knowing when you plan the wild card in, you go right. I can take some risks in the weeks building up to that, and get players in that I know I don't want long term, but I can get them as short term punts. And Aubameyang fits that bill superbly in that he's a heavy hitter who could produce in 1 or 2 games, that no one else is going to look at unless they're in a similar situation to you and sell up for 29. So, yeah, I get it. But with the captaincy here, do we think De Bruyne, with his goals tonight against Southampton, has raised his profile even further away at Fulham? You feel that?
Yeah, I think he has. And looking at the options, there's no one that I'm particularly impressed with this week, captaincy-wise. If I had De Bruyne, I would stick it on him 100%.
Would you?
I'm half tempted by Gundogan, even though we're not entirely sure if he's going to play or not. But he is pretty damn consistent. But if I had De Bruyne, no contest.
And look at that last 4 matches. Fulham's defence, they've conceded 1 goal. Minutes per chance conceded 11.3, which is, 100% better than the
City,
Wolves,
though.
You don't put stock in this Fulham defence at all. Then,
well, no, I do. I do think Fulham are a decent side, and defensively they are really good. But City are a different animal. I just there's no team like them in the league, and I think the defensive stuff kind of goes out the window because they could put 5 or 6 past anyone on the day. So I would back a City player against Fulham when there's no standout option anywhere else.
Well, that's it. I mean, perhaps that's the route to go. I mean, there'll be managers out there who own Salah who go, well, when Salah's a differential captain, which sounds ridiculous. That's the time to stick it on.
I am tempted. Yeah. I'm tempted to sell him or captain him. I don't really know.
I know. This is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no standout at all. Fernandes is the safe bet. There's no doubt about that. But it's the West Ham defence. Over the season, it's the strongest of the defences on show here. And over the last 4 game weeks, it's almost the strongest, second only to Fulham. So I just find it difficult to see. I've backed United to score a couple of goals. And yes, that will probably include a return for Fernandes. Not guaranteed, but probably something for him. Is there a stronger option? I personally just fancy Everton against Burnley. I look at Burnley and think they're safe enough where they could just not relax, but go into that game and go, well, we'll go through the motions, we'll play it out, and there'll be better fixtures we can get those. We need a couple of points. There are other fixtures we can get it in.
They're not going to be given a goal like they were against Arsenal.
No, they're not. And so the only issue is Everton here, because you just don't know where you stand with them. At the moment, Calvert-Lewin hasn't shown enough yet to think, well, he's back in the groove. But if you go, well, form isn't even a thing. It's all about the opposition. And that is what I've done this season. I've backed players with the kindest fixture. I think it's Everton for me. So I think I'm going to either go Dino or Calvert-Lewin. Because I do think they're differential enough and they've got the better fixture out of all the candidates on show.
For your captaincy picks. You've been quite safe with those this season.
Yeah, and where I am in the ranks, maybe I should start playing more conservatively. But instinct says no, don't. Just stick to what you do.
This is the week to gamble, though. Like there's no one on this list that I think is, like you said, Kane is going to be the most captain player from like the kind of not elite. What's the word?
The Twitter community.
Casual, the Twitter sample, fantasy scout sample, but doesn't necessarily mean he's like the standout best option. I don't know. I don't know who I like. There's no one.
There's nobody also that frightens me. I don't look at this list and go, well, one of them here is going to get 20 odd points. I don't see it.
De Bruyne is the one that worries me the most.
Right.
Yeah. He's on my wildcard team for sure.
He did enough tonight to make you think.
He did enough.
Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 goals, yeah. I mean, he's been threatening it. And I just think it's the City formation. If I knew they were going to play that way every game with Foden in the false 9 and De Bruyne getting forward probably more than Gundogan tonight, then I would agree with you. But I just don't know what we're going to get. I don't know what Pep's going to throw Fulham's way in that game. And it could be very different setup. And that's, yeah, I mean,
De Bruyne in their last game against United, he was really, really poor, I thought. Like, just gave the ball away.
He did, yeah.
Like, didn't orchestrate things. He created 8 chances, though. Like, 8 chances in that game. So if better finishing from Sterling and from Gundogan, who missed one, like he could have come away from that with 2 or 3 assists. And, I don't think you'd still be saying, I don't think he played that well, but there it is. They're the points starting to come in. If he's now going to be starting adding goals into it as well, which is what he's lacked kind of all season, it does feel like this is the time to get on him.
And it makes me think as well with the penalty that never was tonight when Who was brought down? Foden was brought down.
Yeah.
Who would have taken
How
that?
can VAR look at that and not give that as a penalty?
I don't see it either. I don't understand. I mean, this is it. If you're not giving penalties for that, players are going to dive. I mean,
Of course they are. Of course they are.
Foden did the right thing, tried to stay on his feet, but they had to bring it back and give the penalty for me. There's contact, isn't there?
I mean, it was. What is the point of VAR if they can't get that? Because it's it meant nothing in the context of the game anyway. But it's obvious.
It means something to us because I would like to have known who's on penalties.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Edison runs up, bangs it in.
Well, I presume
bringing him in.
De Bruyne would have ended up with a hat trick, maybe. I don't know, but I'd like to have known because we still don't really know where that sits. And that, if we knew Gundogan was on penalties, I'd probably go there for Fulham, but it's not enough in it without penalties. I don't think
it was a clear. The thing though with VAR though, like clear and obvious errors. That was the definition of a clear and obvious error. The referee couldn't really see it. Like he got up straight away, so it didn't really look a foul. They barely looked at it.
And also, it wasn't a red card. It's not like sometimes you think, we don't want to give that because we're sending the keeper off. The whole game's setting. Yeah. Because he attempted to go for the ball, so you don't give a red card for that under the new rules. I believe you get a yellow. So it wouldn't be. It's not got that added pressure of if I've given a penalty, I've got to send him off either, which often has been the case in previous seasons. I don't understand why that wasn't given, and I wish it had, so we could get some clarity on it. Anyway, so let's look at our teams and then just talk more on the captaincy when we do that. You have got the armband on Bruno, and you've got the vice on Kane. Are you going to change that then?
Oh, God knows. My team at the moment: Martinez in goal. Cancelo, Stones, Dean, Target, Salah, Fernandez, captain, Gundogan, Rafinha. So Rafinha or Bamford is the choice for a lot of people, I think, this week. Then Kane, Antonio up front. So happy with the team. I could need to get into the bench with all the City rotation, which would be Bamford, Dallas, or Lookman, which doesn't look like the most, it doesn't look a bench packed with points. Captaincy wise, I'm considering either Salah, Fernandez, Gundogan, or Kane. Or I could sell Salah and get an Aubameyang captain him. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do at this stage.
What's going to sway it for you in the next 24 hours, though? Because you've only got till Friday evening, right? So you've only got really 24 hours. You've got tomorrow. And
I can't even have a few beers on Friday night.
No, don't forget. Don't do that.
Well, to be honest, if I can't think of a better reason to captain someone else, I'll leave it on Fernandez. Because in terms of just consistency and in terms of, kind of being the central figure for everything that United do, and the fact that I think United are going to win that game, he is the most kind of uninspiring yet, sensible.
But do you not think this is a week to roll the dice?
Well, I think the captaincy is going to be divided anyway. I don't think Fernandez is going to completely run away with the captaincy this week. I think there's going to be loads of people, especially, if I'm looking at the things like the Great and the Good League and my mini leagues, there's going to be a split between people going for Kane, going for Fernandez, going for De Bruyne, all these guys. So I'm not going to worry about what other people are doing. I'm just going to captain the player who I think is going to do the best.
It's sound advice. Sound advice. Whereas on the other hand, I will think about what Andy's going to do and what you're going to do and what General's going to get up to. And I look at some of the managers around me, and some of them sold Fernandez and don't have him. Some of them sold Calvert-Lewin and don't have him. So that's what attracts me to those two players. Is like, well, if I captain Fernandez, I'm hammering home that advantage if he comes in, right? So there is something in that.
Normally, though, I look at my team and I see like a kind of inspiring pick, and I think I could go for this guy over the more popular guy. Like Captain Cancelo or Captain, someone who I think is going to... I just look at my team and I think they're all quite solid picks, but there's just no one there that I really fancy this week.
So you're not considering Dean then? You don't think that? I mean, I know it's a defender. No?
Nah,
against Burnley, do you see Burnley scoring? I mean, there's 6 points straight away if you don't score.
I think Everton will keep the clean sheet, but I wouldn't be surprised if Burnley scored some dodgy set-piece goal. Or just did. They're kind of a bit of an annoying team like that, and Everton are an annoying team for conceding stupid goals. Yeah. And Dean, I like how attacking Dean is, but he still hasn't got that monopoly of set pieces I really want him to have.
Well, if James is out, I guess Sigurdsson and him are sharing them, aren't they?
Dean versus Fernandez. I just think Fernandez is a better pick.
Yeah. You speak a lot of sense. I mean, I can't talk. I've got it on him at the moment as well. Johnston in goal at the moment.
After all that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of changing. Diaz, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, Dina. I mean, Cancelo will play at least at Fulham, I think, now. Mafina, like you, gone Mafina over Bamford. I think that's the route to go there with the set pieces. Fernandes captain at the moment. Gundogan, Son, Kane, Vice, Calvert-Lewin. So it's Calvert-Lewin or Dina who could take it off of Fernandes, I think. I just don't trust.
You can't give it to Fernandes now with all your talk of me.
Well, I can.
Well, come on, you've got to hammer it home, Mark. You've got to take the risk. You've got to go for Mr. Slippers.
Well, this is it. This is what I feel like.
Although he hasn't got Fernandes, so...
Hasn't he? Oh.
We sold him, didn't he, for De Bruyne?
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah. See, maybe I should do that. Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it on Fernandes for now. I'll sleep on it, and I'll come to Twitter on Friday and announce what
I bet
I'm
you
up
end
to.
up giving it to Kane.
Oh, he's in the equation.
Yeah, I bet.
But I just don't back. Well, I've backed to 2-1 Spurs, so I guess there is something in it for Kane as well. This is what I think. There's returns everywhere, right? Fernandes, Kane, De Bruyne. They're all going to get something, I imagine, from the game week because they're so influential to their teams. Those three, right? You've got to think if their team wins and scores a couple of goals, he'll get something. Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison could just deliver for Everton. They could win 3-0 and Calvert-Lewin gets an assist off his elbow or something, but. So that's the danger, isn't it? I'm overlooking the kind of talismans by doing that. But yeah, so transfer-wise, I still want to talk myself into going Sanchez at Southampton for the Newcastle game in 29. Because I just feel, number one, I think Zaha will mean that Palace will score. And number two, I just fancy Brighton to get something at Southampton. And then the clean sheet again in against Newcastle. The sensible move would be get Martinez in. Kill that off. No more getting murdered by the Villa clean sheet. That would be the sensible move. But it just seems so dull, and I don't know.
Could you do Pope to Sanchez?
Yeah, could do. But then
play Johnson.
But Pope's got a good fixture in game week 30, I believe. I think he's got. Let's have a look at the ticker. I think there's a reason why I want to hold on.
Southampton away.
Right, okay, well, so maybe even 31 as well. So Burnley's fixtures, yeah, they've got Southampton away, then Newcastle in 31. But I'm wildcarding in 31, so maybe that doesn't matter at all. So, yeah.
I'm half tempted to hold on to Pope after the wildcard because Villa's, Martinez, when we look at the fixtures, they've got Liverpool, City, United, Spurs, Chelsea.
This is it.
Tough end of the season.
I'm not going to wildcard Martinez in. So if I'm going to own him, it'll just be for these three fixtures, Newcastle, Spurs, and Fulham. I can't see Villa keeping Spurs out in 29. So I'm getting a 29 keeper who I don't think is going to keep a clean sheet. Doesn't make any sense to me when I'm wildcarding in 31 anyway.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Obviously, I can play Martinez against Fulham, but I don't think that's a gimme clean sheet anymore anyway, because Fulham are fighting for their lives, of course. And I could play Pope at Southampton, which is the kind of game. Southampton's the kind of games Burnley will get a result and get a point and get a clean sheet.
I hope so.
So, yeah, I will probably do the Sanchez move. Now, that's risky enough. Whether or not I also take the risk and take it off Fernandes and give it to Calvert-Lewin. Watch this space, we'll see.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think I should.
Attack.
I think I should. Yeah, I might even go Dina instead, but one of those two, I think. It's going to be fascinating. This is one of those game weeks where I don't think there's going to be big swings, but there's definitely a chance to steal a march on rivals and jump the mini leagues just by making a different choice. And the captaincy is going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top in that one.
Yep.
And the Salah question will go on. I think, like I said, if you don't have Kane, you sell and you try and get Kane in early. Over to you, Az, for the smash and the likes.
Yeah, well, thank you to all of the people that stuck with us with the technical issues. 1,300 people watching now. So hit the like button, please. We appreciate it. Sub to the channel helps us put us up on the YouTube list. We get more viewers, we do more content, all that kind of thing. So it's worth doing. Also, next week we'll be trying something a little bit new.
Yeah.
I've been asked by a few people of ways that they could potentially support the channel. We don't want to set up a Patreon or anything like that. It's not something we've got kind of earmarked to do. So I have added these like super comment things in.
Super chat is what the kids call them. Yeah.
Super chat. I don't fully understand it, but essentially I think you can you can chuck a bit of money our way. You can ask questions that we'll answer, and you can just generally support the channel.
They get highlighted in the
they get highlighted with the thing. Yeah.
So what we're going to do with that is something different, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. So what we thought we might do with that is, rather than people ask a question and then we keep coming out of what we're talking about to answer it, if people wanted to do that super chat thing, we could take all those comments, and then at the end of the stream, we'd have like a bit of a backstage BlackBox thing, where obviously everyone's welcome, whether you've paid or not, or something about that. But we'd have a bit of a chat, a bit more lighthearted, maybe crack open another beer, answer some of those questions, and have a bit of a backstage pass. So
yeah, it'll be a bit
something
more,
we try next week.
A bit more relaxed after the show. We'll roll the credits, then we'll come back and do a little bit extra backstage, like we say, to reward those who have stuck with us throughout the show.
It's our first super chat.
A debut in the super chat. Yeah, we're honestly we're not pushing this just to get money in, but it's just another device of well, no, are you? I don't know. Well, we need more gear that we can try out and then cop the whole thing up like we did tonight.
Yeah. If you want more technical issues, donate to the stream.
Yeah, exactly. Which is that's what it is. We are invested in this show only to make it even more difficult to do. But yeah, no, it should be fun. I love the idea of doing something backstage after the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where it won't go out in the podcast. It will just be for the people watching the stream as well. That's the other thing. So yeah, it'll be fun, won't it? And next week we'll see how it works. We might do 15, 20 minutes. We might end up doing another hour. Who knows what the questions bring and what the chat develops and so on.
Thank you, Steve Elbows, as well in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and obviously, like, if we do that, it's not like you must pay a certain amount of money to be in the chat. Like, we'll still take questions and stuff.
Unless you're Andy, we'll ignore Andy.
We're not helping you.
He can pay us what he likes. We're still not helping him.
Yeah, probably just be like 10 or 15 minutes at the end where we can take some
we'll answer all your questions. It's just the ones that get highlighted are obviously going to leap out. That's the way it works.
We'll answer them better with better advice.
Yeah, we'll give proper answers to those. Outrageous.
Nice.
Okay, it's a good night for me.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.